Hey Des, in this video I wanted to talk about Android developer career paths. What ones are out there? What are the viable options in 2020? And what are some ways that you can better think about how you want to build your career as a developer in general, not just as an Android developer? So we're going to start off with the Android developer questions. And we're going to just put all of these underneath the umbrella of common Android developer career questions, because I get these questions fairly frequently through social media or when I'm talking to people at conferences, etc. So the first question that I want to talk about, and again, I get this quite a bit, is Android development still a viable career path? Should you invest time in learning Android development? And I think very much so, yes. There are still many people out there, many companies looking for Android developers. And even though the frameworks and the operating system are gaining in maturity, the people wanting to be on Android are not slowing down. There's still very much a demand for that. And we'll look specifically at some numbers around that kind of in the next question. So if the first question is Android development still a viable career path? The second question is often, is native Android development still a viable career path? Or should you be looking into cross-platform frameworks like Flutter, like React Native, and some of the other ones out there? And now this is a hard question to really answer, because I think depending on where you gravitate already, that can kind of skew the numbers. So I wanted to take a step back and try and find some more concrete numbers and data to back up kind of this question. And so you have to bear with me. I'm going to look at my notes here, because I kind of went on to LinkedIn and just did job posting searches for certain types of keywords. And basically, if you look at the results of that, if you do a LinkedIn job search for Flutter, for example, you'll get back around 2,500 results, at least at the time of me recording this, kind of mid-January. Now, if you compare that with React Native, you'll see closer to 14,000 results. So you see the difference between kind of Flutter and React Native is pretty big there, which makes sense given how new Flutter is. Now, how do those compare with native Android development? Well, if we do a search for Android Java, we see 33,000 results. So you see, that is a lot bigger than either the Flutter or the React Native version. If we do a search for Android Kotlin, it's a bit less. It's only 9,500. So that's actually less than the React Native skill set. So this could be an indicator that while people are still, want native Android, not everybody is still out there looking specifically for Kotlin. I imagine that number will change as Google invests in Kotlin, but just something to be aware of. And then finally, we can't ignore the third supported native language for Android, which is C++. If you do a search for Android C++, you'll see about 10,000 results. So really, if you combine those three versions of native Android development, you're looking at over 50,000 results as compared to around, 16,000, 17,000 results for Flutter and React Native combined. So what that indicates to me is that while those cross-platform frameworks are popular and might be growing in popularity, if you're looking for jobs, there are just far more opportunities out there for native Android developers. That's native using Java, Kotlin, or C++. So that's something to keep in mind if you hear people talking about how the market is dead for that. It might be in a few years that cross-platform is the more in-demand skill, but today, if you're already starting to learn native Android, it's still a very viable career route. You could very much find a native Android job and then explore the cross-platform frameworks down the line once you're already into your career. Piggybacking right off of the native versus cross-platform discussion is the question of what languages should you learn for Android development, and some of this will get into just development in general. So, like you mentioned before, if you're going to be doing some type of cross-platform development for Android, your language is going to be pretty much chosen for you. You're going to be doing probably JavaScript or TypeScript in the React Native world. You're going to be using Dart in the Flutter world. If you're going to go the native Android route, you're going to be looking at Java, Kotlin, C++, or likely some combination of those three. And those are all specific to the domain of, Android. If you are going to be specializing in any one domain, you're going to have probably that set of core languages that you have to know. For iOS, that might be Swift and Objective-C. If you're going to be looking at the React world as a whole, that's going to be JavaScript or TypeScript or CoffeeScript, all those different types of scripts out there that you can do. And so it's good to be specialized in on the languages you need for a particular domain, if that's the kind of specialization route you're going. However, it's also a really good idea to have some other languages that you're comfortable with. And I really highly recommend you be familiar with some type of scripting language. Now, the reason behind a scripting language is that it empowers you as a developer to automate certain things, automate certain workflows that are taking up time. They could help you automate your build pipeline or copying files. It's just a really powerful thing to have in your back pocket as a developer. So looking into a scripting language like Unix shell scripting or using Python scripts is a really good idea, and it's worth investing a little bit of time in to be familiar with how you would write a script in one of those languages. A big question that I'm sure almost everybody has when they're just starting out in their career as a developer is, how do you get that first job? And this is really a tricky question. There's a lot that goes into all of this. And so I'm just going to share a few things that I think have helped me and advice that I've seen help others as well. And now the first piece of advice here is to set realistic expectations about where you want to get a job. Many people you talk to, almost seems like the majority of people you talk to, especially coming out of school, want to just aim for the stars and go right after the Googles, the Facebooks, the Amazons, those really big, prestigious in name, high-paying companies. I can understand, there's great engineers at those. They're doing really cool work in a lot of areas. The compensation is phenomenal. There's a lot of pluses there. However, those are also extremely competitive with sometimes millions of applicants a year. So it's a much greater challenge for you to get a job there. And what I would encourage you to do is not only set your sights on those really high-paying, well-known companies, because there are amazing developers and amazing jobs out there everywhere. My first job was at a large company, but that no one's ever really heard of, and it was an amazing experience as a first job. I had an amazing team, amazing mentorship. It really helped me grow a lot in my career. And I got to work on a variety of different apps at different levels in the development pipeline. And so I really got a lot of great experience. And so don't limit your scope so much onto only a couple companies. Broaden it up, be open to different types of companies, different domains, and you might just be surprised that you find a great fit somewhere that you wouldn't have otherwise looked. And now another really great way to get that first job is to have some way of demonstrating job competencies. Now, what do I mean by this? Job competencies would be the skills for the job that you're trying to get. So if you are an Android developer, your job competencies would be, can you build an app? Have you released an app before? Do you know how to construct a UI? Do you know how to handle, activity lifecycle events? Do you know how to maybe set up a build pipeline? There's all the different things that go into the day-to-day work of being an Android developer. And the more of those skills that you can show, regardless of what domain, the more information recruiters and interviewers are going to have about you, and it's going to improve your odds of, maybe getting an interview, maybe getting a second round interview, and ultimately likely helping you improve your odds of getting a job. And to demonstrate these competencies, that could be things like sample projects on GitHub, putting an app in the Play Store, developing a website that recruiters can go to, having a blog, having tutorial videos, anything you can do to show your work and demonstrate the things that you know. Any of those are really helpful in that first job hunt experience. Another great tip is to reach out to people in the industry. If you can, go to local events, go to meetups, go to conferences, form study groups at your school, your university. Make connections with people that are in the industry so that when it's time to find a job, you can maybe have an in somewhere. They can put in a good word for you, or maybe get your resume put to the top of the list. Little things like that can really make a big difference, which is just another reason why it's a good idea to start demonstrating those competencies so that people know and feel comfortable vouching for your skill set. And lastly, a really important part of finding that first job is to just stay positive. It's very frustrating at times looking for a job. You're often sending out lots and lots of emails, you're returning calls, you're waiting back to hear from people. Sometimes you might not hear back from a recruiter for weeks. You might be juggling multiple offers or multiple interview pipelines. And then also, getting a no or just getting no response, it's very demoralizing at times. And it's easy to start internalizing that and thinking like, oh, my skills aren't good enough. However, that's really not what it means. There's a lot that goes into interviewing, and it's not at all an indictment on your skills. Oftentimes it just comes down to timing or how many people are already in the pipeline. So if you can, really stay positive, keep looking for jobs, keep making those connections with people, and eventually I have faith that you will find an awesome job out there. Another common question for those kind of getting into their career or looking to build upon their career is, how do you get your name out there? How do you start to make a name for yourself so that when people, hear your name, read your name, or meet you, they have some idea about your skill set, your interests, who you are, and hopefully all of that works together to make them more interested in working with you. But thankfully, in this modern day and age with the internet and conferences and meetups and all this stuff, there's lots of ways out there to get your name out there. Those could be things like open source contributions, either having a project that you maintain, contributing to another project, and that could be as small as documentation or very large libraries that everybody uses. Another way is event organizing, bringing people together in your community or in your country, for example, or even globally. But being able to work with people on that one-on-one level is a great way to put your best foot forward, kind of help them, give some value to them, and hopefully they will think upon you fondly then and perhaps throw jobs your way down the line, or want to work with you on other types of projects. Now, there's also a lot of content creation opportunities out there. There's, speaking, there's blogging, there's video tutorials like on YouTube, just like this. And those are all great ways for you to, again, show what you know. And a great idea here is to think about what you're good at. If you like writing and you think you're a good writer, then blogging could be a great way to go. If you really just like to talk and you're comfortable in front of a camera, maybe pull out your smartphone and start filming yourself talking about topics you're interested in. Or grab a webcam and start doing some type of webcast or screencast tutorial. Those are really great options. If you like the more one-on-one approach, again, speaking is a great way, whether at conferences or at local meetups. Anything you can do, again, to sort of put your face in front of some people and talk about what you're interested in is a great way to sort of build up your reputation. Another great option, in my opinion, is mentorship. If you're already maybe into your career a little bit, helping others is an amazing way to kind of give back to people, to help others, grow in their career, which then makes them, want to encourage you and support you in the things that you do. It's a great way to build connections because that person might end up at a new company that needs to hire someone down the line and they can put in a good word for you. It also just makes you feel good, I think. I really enjoy mentorship and getting to teach others. So if you enjoy that aspect of it, if you like to teach, if you like to kind of help others grow, if you want to give back, looking into mentorship opportunities could be a great option. And that's a great segue into this last item here for how to get your name out there, which is social media. Social media is an amazing platform these days for getting your name out there because you can find conversations on the topics you're interested in, like Android development or web development, iOS, machine learning, AI, and you can start talking about those. You can start lending your voice, whether it's Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Pinterest, like all these different platforms out there have ways of finding these conversations and contributing your voice. And so if you start talking about a certain thing, people will start recognizing who you are. They'll start to understand your thoughts and your opinions. And you can start to build kind of that personal reputation, which again can really help when looking for jobs and opportunities down the road. Okay, so that's been some of the specific Android related things. Segue then into some more general ideas for just developers and their career. Now we're going to kind of wrap this up with a few comparison type questions that you can think of when trying to decide where you want to take your career. So first off, we have the idea of, do you want to be a developer with your development skill sets, or do you maybe want to be an educator? For a long time, if you had software development skills, the real main job for you available was software developer. However, in this day and age, with the rise of EdTech and with platforms like YouTube available for development training, if you are a software developer that really enjoys kind of helping others learn, you like creating tutorials, things like that, you can make a living creating educational material for developers to help other software developers learn. So that's a great option for you, and you can kind of think about that. Do I want to be all developer? Do I want to be all educator? Or do you maybe want to find a mix of the two and sort of write code and make educational content for people? Now, let's say that you do want to go the route of being a full-time developer. You still have questions around where do you want to work and how do you want to work? And a great high-level example of that is, do you want to be a freelancer? Or do you want to work for a company? And there are a lot of comparisons to be made here. Freelancer, you're likely going to have more freedom. You might be able to choose your clients. You likely could be able to work from home, be able to set your schedule, leaving you more time for things like family or other things like content creation if you wanted to add that into your career mix. However, as an employee of a company, you're likely to be a little bit more stable. You're probably going to always know where your paycheck is coming from unless you get fired suddenly. You might have a more solid benefits package working at a company as well, especially if it's a large company. However, you might not have as much freedom in your schedule. You might not be able to work from home. You might not be able to pick what you work on as much. So there's really trade-offs to be made for both. One small piece of advice, I think starting off as a freelancer is probably not the way to go. I think moving into freelancing after you have some professional experience working with a team is probably a better bet, just because of how much information you'll gain from working with others. But the option is out there for you. So let's say you do want to work at a company. What type of company? Do you want to work at the really big companies like Google, Microsoft, Facebook, Amazon, etc.? Or would you rather work at a smaller company, maybe a startup, maybe not a startup, but just a small, slow growing, sustainable business? There's a lot of differences again between these types of companies, and they're gonna have their different pros and cons. A smaller company is maybe not gonna have all of the fancy perks like concierge or dry cleaning. They might not have big stock bonuses or year-end bonuses. However, a small company might give you more flexibility in what you work on. You might get to work on a wider array of things on your project. You might be more likely to work from home or have more ownership on things. On the flip side, however, a big company might pay more. They might have those fancy perks that you really want. They might have a larger variety of engineers that you can learn from and work with. They might have greater flexibility for long-term changes and career shifts into different types of domains and teams. These are all impacted by these choices in kind of company size and style. To help you maybe think about how to compare something like a startup to a really big company like Google, here's a rapid fire set of questions for you to think about. Do you want to work at a well-known company? Would you rather work on the ground floor at a no-name company and turn them into a big company? Do you want to work on a really big team, or would you rather work on a really small, focused team? Would you rather get paid more, or would you rather maybe work from home or have greater flexibility in your work hours? Do you want to know everybody you work with, or maybe even everybody in the company? Or would you rather work at a company so big that you could never hope to know everybody, but that has maybe infinite possibility with who you might work with? What's more important to you, fun perks like a ping pong table or daily snacks? Or would you rather have reasonable working hours or a work from home policy? How much project ownership do you want to have? Do you want to take an entire app, work on all of it, and try to improve the entirety of that product? Or would you rather go really deep on a single area or a single screen and try to make it as functional and as efficient as possible? These are the types of questions that can really help guide you towards a style of company that works best for you. All right, and now one last kind of big comparison to think about is, where do you see yourself in 5 years or 10 years? Do you want to be a developer full-time, or do you want to be a manager? A lot of times what this comes down to is, do you want to be an IC, which stands for individual contributor, or do you want to be some form of technical manager? I think personally that these are both perfectly viable options. Some people might say that if you go the management route, that means you're going to not be as technical, which is maybe the case for some people, but I know amazing managers that are also incredibly technical. So don't let that mindset deter you. If you want to be a great developer and you want to work with people and help make other people more successful on your teams and organizations, do it. Go that management route and don't worry about being viewed as non-technical, because I think for most people, that's not how they're going to view you. On the flip side, if you want to write code all day, every day, and that's what you want to do for the entirety of your career, go for it. There is nothing wrong with that. And there are amazing ways to continue to grow as a developer, kind of climb that career ladder, especially the bigger companies, and spend all your time coding, learning new things, building new products out of the software that you write. Okay, that's it. That was a fire hose of information. We talked through a lot of things there. And if you can take away anything from this, I hope that maybe you just have some ideas of the types of questions to ask yourself next time you're looking for a job. Maybe that is the size of company you want to work with. Maybe that is the language you want to work with. Maybe you have some ideas for how to get your name out there so that the next time you start looking for a job, it's maybe a little bit easier. Whatever it is, I hope this was helpful to you. If you did get some good advice out of this, or you had some ideas, I'd love to hear it. Leave a comment down below. Let me know kind of what you're thinking about when you are making your career moves. And in what ways has your career surprised you? I love hearing how people's career paths have taken unexpected turns into amazing places and to incredible heights in their career. All right, that's it for this video. If you found this helpful, hit the like button and subscribe to stay up to date on future tutorials and advice videos to help you grow in your career. And we'll see you in the next video. Until next time, devs.